Hello there, everybody. Very happy to have you join us for another conversation of Meet the Zor. Doug, I'm going to bring you in just because it's easier to talk with you than myself. So, Doug, before we get into some of the newsworthiness of this incentive that you have, because that's part of the purpose of this discussion, frame what's going on with MOOYAH. Give us kind of the state of the union, what your plans are for 2023 so that we can set the tone that when we get into why this incentive and why now, it makes a little bit more sense.
Sure. Well, for those that don't know MOOYAH, we're a better burger franchise. And by that, I think we like to call ourselves the best burger franchise, Nick, but because we think our product is the best and we get voted the best all the time. But essentially, we start with just a simple focus on serving the best burger, shakes, and fries in the world. And so, we love spreading that story. We love growing this brand. And so coming out of the difficult years surrounding COVID, we've really decided that we want to get back to growing again. We have a drive-through concept that's launching at the end of this year with a couple of locations. And we really feel like now is a great time for new franchisees and existing franchisees to expand. So we decided to offer a growth incentive and build up the team in order to really be there to significantly grow the brand.
Love it. Do you want to give the details of the incentive just in case anybody watches this, and then obviously let us know what's the expiration date on this?
All right. Well, yeah. So what we'll do is we'll put the punchline up front in case anybody drops off. But what we're doing is we're essentially giving people 3 years of royalty relief. So in the MOOYAH system, normal royalties are 6%. But with this signing incentive, if you sign this year and you sign a lease this year, then any location where the lease is signed this year will have 3% royalties for the first year, 4% for the second year, 5% for the third year, and then won't get the regular 6% rate until after the fourth year. So it's a really great incentive. The kicker on this is any unit that opens during this calendar year will be royalty free for the rest of the calendar year. So there's a way to kick that forward, and we have a couple franchisees taking advantage of that right now. But the other part of this is we really believe in partnering with our franchisees. And so part of the incentive is that we'll match opening marketing spending. So up to the first $5,000, the company will kick into $5,000 because we think it's very, very important that you start strong and you stay strong. And we think telling the story to your new trade area is a really important part of that.
Here's what I love about this, and you and I have talked about this in the past. I'm a fan of incentives, and maybe incentives end up being the wrong term. It's more so when a brand can come out and say, we're truly interested in partnering with our franchisees. Now, obviously, there's some expiration that goes against whatever the idea is, but that doesn't mean there won't be a new one in the future. And what you're saying here is you're saying, one, don't sit on the sidelines. Like every franchisee that's getting into the space can find a million reasons why not to buy a franchise.
Yeah.
They talk themselves off the ledge over and over and over again. And here you're saying, well, let us help you here. We're gonna help incentivize you to make this decision, to make this life change as a franchise owner. And then when you open up, like the reality is you're not going to do top level dollars on day one. You may, but the likelihood of you hitting what would be disclosed in an item 19, it takes time to build up the customers and establish a relationship with them. So that time that it takes, you're saying, let us give you a little bit of relief here so that it's not hurting you to spend time growing the right way. And then last thing that I hear in this is, well, when you open, most franchisees, they want to spend as little as possible. And you know this, you've engineered the right way to open, and it costs money to create exposure and awareness for a concept when those doors do open. And you're saying, let's double that up to give you a little bit more incentive to help you get out of the gate. So from where I stand, it seems like you've checked the boxes of saying we are putting our money where our mouth is, because at 3%, MOOYAH corporate doesn't collect that other 3%. And most of the royalty in a system like yours is used to really build the support infrastructure to support the franchisees. So you're finding other ways to capitalize that. So I love hearing this incentive because I think back to the buyer. There's plenty of reason why MOOYAH, and then obviously you start talking about having the best burger franchise in the marketplace. Maybe dive into like you're relatively, it's not really new, but relatively new to the business. What has excited you as you take this role and you start listening to what franchisees want and where you want to take this brand? I mean, you talked about the drive-through, but what excited you as you started doing your homework on this as an executive?
Yeah, so to your point, I've been with the brand a year and a half. And to be honest, the first thing that excited me was I was a fan of the brand when it first started. I started going to MOOYAH when unit number 2 opened here in Dallas. And so we had a location just down the street from my house. And so that was our go-to place for me and my boys as they were growing up. When we get done with the soccer game or we want to have a boys' night out, we just go order a bunch of fries and some great cheeseburgers and sit down and talk. And so I always had a belief in the brand. It's wonderful to work for a brand where you not only believe in the future of the brand, but you also, you personally love the product, and you're somebody that's a heavy fan of the brand. So for me, that was a double whammy. The thing that really drew me to this was our ownership group. Really, when they talked to me about joining the brand, they said, "Hey, Doug, we think this is the best kept secret around. We don't want it to be that way. So you tell me what resources you need." And so I've spent the last year growing my team, adding support structure resources so we could do this. So you can't just throw an incentive like this out and not have the support team, the training infrastructure, the back office systems to be able to handle that kind of growth. Because right now we're just under 100 units. And we're hoping with this incentive and some follow-ups that, we're going to double that over the next few years. So it's a very exciting time. I've spent the last year and a half getting ready for this moment. So it's great to see that it's here.
Let's dive into the drive-through a bit. I mean, the best comparison that I can think of, and probably biased because I'm from Chicago, and I don't even think it's good. Portillo's has built a drive-through that in their positioning is taking an elevated hot dog product and everything else that comes through a Portillo's, and it's delivering it through a drive-through. I guess in the chicken space, Chick-fil-A has set the standard of being what they would call an elevated chicken experience through the drive-through as well. So I think about MOOYAH, and the burger is already elevated from everything else that would be in a fast casual or a fast food environment. And so, in my opinion, if I am let's say I'm a first time guest and I go through this drive-through and I get this product, I mean, my mind's going to be blown that something of this quality came through a drive-through with my perception of the drive-through.
Yeah.
How are you engineering this? What are you thinking through? What was the reason behind it? And are we aligned on how the customer may experience this?
Yeah, I think for us, obviously, there's been a tremendous shift going on in the consumer landscape, which has been happening for a long time, which is a shift to convenience. And you've seen a lot of the brands in our space that really lean in on having great ingredients, pride themselves on great food, starting to get into this pickup or drive-through space. And so I look at other brands that have a very tight focus on being the best in the world at what they do, and how they're starting to get and think about pickup windows, for example. So when Starbucks first came out, they didn't have drive-thrus, they didn't have pickup windows. Eventually, they evolved to that. The way that Chipotle has evolved to the Chipotle lanes and picking up windows. We're fans here because they're another DFW market of Raising Cane's. Raising Cane's is similar in the sense of they focus on being the best of the world at one thing, chicken tenders. And so they focus on giving you absolutely great food. I think the thing that's a little bit different for us that we're going to have to come to grips with is because of our handcrafted processes, we cook everything fresh, Nick. And so we're going to be in a ticket time that maybe is a little bit longer because we're not going to start cooking that product, the fries. We're not going to start making the shake. We're not going to start cooking the patty until it's ordered. And so that puts us in a ticket time that's a little bit longer than the QSR competitors. And we believe that there's a lot of evidence that people are willing to wait for higher quality. And so for us that, it's not a huge wait. It's, we're looking at 4 or 5 minutes, but there's things that we're doing to engineer the speed through technology. And we believe that, we've got a great combination of convenience and great product. You don't have to sacrifice the quality of the product because you need it. You need to get it in the car. You need to get it quickly.
Does this also open up areas of opportunity with third party and order ahead?
You know, it does. We're actually, Nick, that was a great segue because we're relaunching our app this Monday coming up, right? So we're kind of T-minus 5 days away from relaunching our app and the whole point of relaunching the app is making the user experience much easier. We did this with our online tools in terms of our website and our mobile website late last year. And we believe that we're going to be able to transform the number of people that are ordering ahead using technology so that the window goes much faster. So that's definitely as part of the scope here.
As you're thinking through the business, Doug, I mean, you've been in franchising for a while, but when you're trying to consider or think through, because I hear innovation, I hear strength of product, I hear obviously the business side from an incentive standpoint, but what do you think franchisees are looking for? And do you feel like these are the three things that are checking the box? Is there anything else that they're thinking about when it comes to buying a restaurant franchise, and how are you solving that?
Sure. I think what I tend to observe, right, and we have two groups of people, broadly speaking, that are interested in franchising with us. One is somebody who's already an operator in the restaurant space, and they're trying to transform their life. They're trying to transform their family tree by becoming an owner. And we're a great place to do that because we're smaller, we've got better support, and so we can really kind of help you make that jump. And the other target that we have is folks that are with another system today, but they're capped out of growth, and they've got a really good infrastructure where they are, and they just want to add complementary brands. And we've got great locations, so that's another good fit. But when I talk to people and I say, "Hey, what brought you to MOOYAH?" Almost to a person, they start off with a story about they tried our food. I had your burger, and I couldn't believe how good it was. And I couldn't get it out of my mind. And I came back 2-3 times and I said, I've got to do this. Especially restaurant people, they really value and understand the quality that we're putting in. And so it usually starts there, but that's not good enough, Nick. What the next question they're trying to get at is, hey, can I make money? Do I have the right economics, the right numbers that support me? And am I going to have a team behind me so that as a good operator, I can go out and do what I do? So I need to make sure I have the support, a good leadership team. I need to make sure the numbers work. But the entry point is always, I can't believe how good this food is.
All right. So as a marketer, though, I mean, what I hear there, because let's put on the marketing hat. Marketers get ticked off when they're like, I did all the work in the world, I got the customer, and then operations fails. Now, the reality is when the product is engineered so well, it actually also buys a little bit of wiggle room on the operations side because the customer is so in love with this product, as long as it's done as close to right as possible. And you just talked about just the repeat business. I can't get it out of my head how good this was. Does that turn into like one of the advantages of why MOOYAH? Because ultimately, if you've nailed the marketing of a product, there's a million places you can get a burger. So you found a way to compete in a very competitive space and be a thought leader and a product leader in that space. Do you feel like that ends up being such an important check mark when the product has that sort of celebrity factor behind it?
Yeah, I think it really does. And as you know, one of the things that makes an organization successful is if the people who are interfacing with the customers day to day really believe in what they do. Right? If you have an owner operator who believes in the product, then they're going to go the extra mile to make sure that product's great. And that's the same for the team. And people are proud to serve our food. And that's not always the case. And the second key to this is we have great support systems. A lot of people have great support systems. Because we have a focused menu, we allow people to get really good at what they do. And that allows us to do a little bit of customization, do some burgers that other people can't do, because we're not trying to do burgers and chicken sandwiches and fish and you name it, right? We're not trying to do breakfast. We're focused on serving the very, very best, burger, fries, and shakes in the nation. And so when you focus on one thing, you get really, really great at it. And that's, I think, the difference maker for us.
Well, not to give you a giant pat on the back, but in essence, you're focusing really heavily on business too with what you're trying to set up from a franchisee standpoint. I think that's important too. A lot of brands say that they're willing to partner for growth, But what does that really mean? I mean, you're putting your money where your mouth is.
Well, that's true. And I mentioned I've only been with the business a year and a half. I've been in just about every one of our 76 domestic traditional locations. So I spend just about every week on the road meeting with franchisees. So yesterday, you might hear my voice a little bit ragged here, but yesterday I was in the SoCal market for 2 days meeting with our franchisees there. I've got 3 that are in construction there. I've got a couple that are looking to grow. And so, we sit across from them and say, how can I help you? What's going well? So I've got a whole team of people that help them on the details, but it's very, very different when the president of the company comes into your restaurant, sits across from you for an hour and says, talk to me about what we're doing well and how I can support you better. And I think that's the attitude, that we want to have, right? We're not some big, restaurant company, or I'm not sitting back, in headquarters, with our team, not wanting to get out and get our hands dirty. That's not who we are. And quite frankly, I think that kind of shows the partnership we want to do. It's not just the incentive, right? And our ability to, partner with you on the financial side. But it's also, how we support you with the launch marketing, how we support you all the way through on operations and training. And I think that's a really important part, especially if you're new to the franchising business and you don't have a great organization. The fact that our team is there to support you is a big plus.
I mean, you're hitting the road. What are the existing franchisees saying about some of the stuff that you're doing on the business and the marketing and innovation sides?
Gosh, Nick, it goes all over the gamut, right? And sometimes it's very tactical. It's very, very tactical. It's like, hey, the produce that we've been getting the last 2 weeks, I've noticed this. And then, that's great intelligence for me, because then I can, ring up our team. We can get the produce supplier on the line and just find out, hey, what's going on? How do we shift to make sure that our people get the very best product? And sometimes it's very long-term and thoughtful. I had a conversation with our franchisee in Tennessee, and he took the time, because he's got a business background, to put together an analysis of how he's thinking about growing his business with his local outreach. And he put it in a PowerPoint deck, and we went through it. So you get everything from, hey, it's great. Could you help me with this? I'm having this issue. Wouldn't it be great if our kiosk did this? To somebody who's really wanting to influence me with a presentation. It's really sort of depends on what you're going to get.
Well, if I'm reading between the lines, I mean, if any franchisee is coming to you with an idea at these one-on-ones, that means they care. And yes. I think to an outsider looking in, I mean, that's something that you need to believe that your current franchisees care in what's happening. And it seems like that's what I'm hearing.
Yeah. And sometimes, because I have, the team behind me, it's easy for me to come out and maybe hear something and then, pass it along so I can break through a little bit of red tape and get them the help they need. They know, because I come back from the marketing background, a lot of times they're like, hey, what can we do to do sales? This is what I'm doing. What do you see? What are you seeing in the restaurant? And so sometimes it goes that way. But most often, my team knows that when I'm on the road, they're going to get pictures. They're going to end up doing that.
Doug, I want you to speak to the person that's out here watching passively, because we're going to have plenty of human beings that have watched this video. Are you back, Doug? Almost?
I'm back. Hey, one thing I want to make sure that we cover on the incentive, there's also a multi-unit component. So I kind of held that back when we first talked about it. So make sure that we loop back on that before the end.
Well, I mean, this will lead into it, because what I want you to do is I want you to speak to the passive buyer that's watching this video, has not given you their name. You don't know who they are, but they're trying to figure out, at what point do I inquire, or do I inquire into business ownership with MOOYAH? The incentive is one reason to do it now, but go into answer that and then talk about the multi-unit component to this.
Yeah, I think if you're thinking about getting into business, you really got to look at the business and look at other businesses, right? Compare, try to figure out what's going to be right for you. What do you really want to get out of, joining a franchise? And really make sure that you're understanding the territory is going to work for you, the economics are going to work for you, and the timeline is going to work for you. And then you start meeting with these. And I don't want to use the dating analogy, but as you start reading up on brands, you'll find that there's a number of really good brands out there. And so you want to start at that point interacting with the brand. And I highly encourage you to come to a discovery day. Then you're going to meet the people behind the brand. The amount of effort they put into the discovery day is going to tell you how they're going to treat you, and the amount of effort they're going to give post signing. And so look at those things and try to figure out where do you fit best. Look at the operation, look at the food. And I think that there's no bad time to start thinking about that and thinking about your future.
Okay, and now go into the multi-unit side of the incentive. Give us some.
Yeah, so the first part of the incentive I rolled out, I explained to you, was for people that are wanting to do one restaurant, and we have a good portion. Most of our franchisees that sign up are looking for a territory. They're looking for a future. Maybe that's 3 restaurants. Maybe that's 5 restaurants. We've had some do 10 and 15, but the average is usually 3 to 5. And so with this incentive program, we can create a structure. And as long as you're meeting your commitments, the first one gets the lease signed this year. And as long as you're staying on that development schedule, every unit you open on that agreement will get the same treatment. So there's a way for you to lock in. Hey, I want to do this. I'm looking at the next 3 years. I want to lock this in, so my next 3 restaurants get this benefit. We have a way for you to do that. So from that standpoint, you don't want to wait and miss that opportunity, because the gateway here is we have to have a lease signed in this calendar year. So we've got a couple months still to be able to work on that. Maybe you've got a lease you already have in mind, but if you wait too long, you're going to miss that opportunity.
Follow-up question on that. After I've signed the franchise agreement, what sort of support or guidance do you give on the real estate process to help me figure out how am I going to get this lease signed this year?
Yeah, sure. So, we have a broker network. A lot of our franchisees have a broker they've worked with before, especially if they're somebody in the market that maybe operates, 10, 15 restaurants. We have great brokers. So, the first thing we'll do is we'll find out where you are. And if you don't have a broker, we'll connect you with a broker. And we have a director of real estate on our side, and we have a real estate analysis tool on our side. So we can start with doing a trade area analysis and say, for your area, for 5 locations, here's probably what the data would say are the best 5 areas for you to look at. And so we can give you a very focused place where, the best 1 or 2 restaurants are going to be in this neighborhood. We actually give you down to the intersection, but, it gives you a place to focus and look. And then, through the course of looking, we have a construction support. So as you start looking at a new location, you're like, all right, this is a 2nd generation location. Am I going to be able to fit a MOOYAH in? What does it look like? And then our construction team will then float a test fit and just be able to help you understand, is that going to work? Is it not going to work? What's the implication for cost? And so, we really partner very directly with them, because we want them to get that lease. And as soon as they get that lease, we've got a very tight process that kicks off to help you get open.
Love it. And just for clarification, is this incentive on both sides, both multi-unit and single unit, open to existing franchise owners too?
It is. It's open to existing franchise owners, provided that they're not already in a commitment. So we do have some franchise owners that have commitments to open restaurants next year and the year after, and they've gotten incentives to sign those deals. So they aren't eligible, but I've got at least 12 franchisees that are in good standing and wanting to grow, that are actively looking at this. In fact, 5 of them are out with brokers right now. I've got 3 LOIs. So just in the last week and a half, knowing it's coming, they've really jumped at it.
That's great. I mean, obviously, this is going to build momentum for the brand. The brand has been around for a while. It has a lot of good legacy, excitement behind it, and it seems like you're doing the right thing to accelerate this for this year and beyond. So, just as a clarifying statement, the why you, why now for MOOYAH is what?
Well, because we have the best cheeseburger, and we are able to be there to support you so you can open successfully and achieve the business results you want. And why now is obviously this great incentive. We're going to partner with you to make sure that that location, starts profitably and continues to be profitable. And we'll do that not only with the marketing side, but also, with putting skin in the game on the royalties. And so I don't think there's ever been a better time, Nick.
I mean, Doug, you've obviously positioned this very well. I appreciate that. Any closing words? Anything else that you want the ghost candidate to know, or those that are watching our session online?
What I'd say is just get to know us. If you haven't been to MOOYAH, try to get to one, stop in. Like I said, most people fall in love with the product and then want to talk to us. But there's no harm in talking with us or with any other franchise. just start the process. There's no commitment until you decide to sign a franchise agreement. So I would encourage people to get to know the different franchise owners, get to know their businesses, and try to decide what's going to be right for them.
I think that is an incredible lasting piece of advice, because most franchise buyers feel like once you've inquired, you're in the funnel. Some inquire and then don't even respond because they get this like knee-jerk reaction. But there is no harm. It costs you nothing. It allows you to see something else that might fit into your life, that might be sound for your family. I think that's really good advice, and a lot of people don't even get to that step. And if you listen to what Doug just said, I think why not open up the door to franchising, whatever it is. So for Doug, I'm Nick Powles. Thank you so much for joining us, and look forward to hearing where your MOOYAH story goes from here on out.
Thank you, Nick. I appreciate it.